Hello friends, it is yet another Monday and as per usual, look over the freshest tournament results for my build and what new changes, if any. And today I have something fun as well, which is a tier list for the chain continuers. I will explain what I've excluded later on and what the base principle for it is. But without further ado, let's have some fun and let's get into it. The list, no changes. Biggest considerations are like, I guess, playing a guide. Like I would maybe want an additional continuer instead of that, but we really don't have any. And then I mean like the multi-purpose thing like Airbender Ascension is a little, but other than that, like the list is good, the list does its job, it casts things consistently, so it's good. Eyes out on the spoiler season. If we see anything interesting, that's gonna be fun. Some new, I guess, things to see is I started thinking about Valrath's Shapeshifter again in a way where originally I had like the heuristic of, when we crack LED, you want to put like a continuer on top. Usually I thought that I wanted to have a clone on top because then the Volrath's shapeshifter would stick around as whatever it's copying instead of changing forms. And I wanted to question myself whether there was something about it where it would be beneficial to have it not be a clone and rather it have its form changing ability. And soon enough, discoveries were made, and there's like two major trees, which are the two like things. The first one is this one. Let's wait for it to start over, but so the base principle here is you crack LED, order your graveyard such a way that you first crack the LED and then discard cards. So here you can see Starfield Vocalist going second from the top and Ennis on top. Now VS enters as an Ennis, it blinks Aang. And now if Aang finds a Renegade Rallier or Extraction Specialist, it will bring back the 2-drop Flicker Continuer. And now Volrath's Shapeshifter will be the doubler underneath, which means that whether it was like Preston or Brennard or even things like Luminous Broodmoth, pretty much anything, you would get the instant upside of it. So Volrath's Shapeshifter is already the thing when the Ennis or Charming Prince enters. And this for me was an exciting find because this means that there's actually 3 cards in the deck that can produce multiple chains out of one original chain while being a chain continuer. So this means Salvation Swan, which can produce like multiple chains due to having multiple swans through clones. Gigantoplasm by pairing it up with Brennard and, the Luminous Broodmoth stuff and these kind of things. But now also technically Volrath's Shapeshifter, but VS is just much more conditional. Like there's multiple times where you'd go like, ooh, I have the perfect grave setup after cracking an LED, but now you just hit a regular clone and then you let your clone die and now you don't really benefit from that. So there's still like if it's found later in the chain, there's still some upside. Like if you find, for example, a flicker creature first, like Restoration Angel or whatever, you can still have your regular clones be that flicker creature while maintaining your grave setup. So I don't think it's the worst. Like there will be scenarios where it's relevant, but if you're really dipping your toes into this build and the crazy world of Turbo Aang, then probably this kind of learning isn't beneficial for you, at least to the extent of it significantly improving your win rate, because I think these are very nuanced things, and overall, if your chain priority isn't as good as it could be, I think the major learning is done by just like starting from the more basic stuff. And even though I say like more basic stuff, it quite literally just means like less complex. And I don't mean it as like, the simplest things overall to grasp, but rather that it's just much easier than these kind of layered choices where you're also balancing the actual chain priority by like in terms of what do you take from your Aang flip, but also having to think about all these things. So it's just a big cognitive load to carry, and if you were to min-max the usage of VS while not like optimizing to set up towards Gigantoplasm or Salvation Swan, I think it's like the opposite direction. I think this, because this was a new refine for me as well, credit to Dashiell also for, well, writing out the Ennis, like the 2-drop flicker creature and the doubler before I got to exploring, and you'll soon see the other one. But just like if you're in the deep end, then this thing is very complex and very nice to think about. And this is not even yet started to like, there's the Safi and the Smalimage Luminous Broodmoth things, obviously much rarer because you really don't just encounter those because it would mean that you have a Broodmoth out and you have a chain. So it's very, very conditional in terms of finding specific cards, but still there are some loops there. The other one is with Loyal Retainers. And as you can see here, Felidar Guardian is the topmost card. Now, if you find a Loyal Retainers, you can crack it targeting one of your legends. VS is now a Loyal Retainers, and then respond to the original Loyal Retainers crack, and you can bring 2 creatures out. And these legends could be anything from like Melira or Safi as a one-time doubler. It could be Brennard, it could be Preston, so pretty much many things. I just used clones for the example, but it doesn't really matter what the cards there are. I think from the top of my head, all legends are applicable for this. Let me think if there's anything that I... No, I think every single legend actually is alright for this. Like, I think they're chain continuers. Let's see. Ennis, Melira. Ophelia is the only one, but it's a delayed one. Yeah. Safi. Where do we have the next one? And Brago, actually, now that I mention. But Brennard, Chameleon. Let's see, what's the next one? Preston, Sakashima. Thassa is a continuer. Yeah, so pretty much all of them. But that was like the major one. And I'm still interested to see if there's like other things. Like I'm interested in some maybe Melira scenarios because Melira doesn't sacrifice itself. Originally my thought was with Safi. Like Safi was the one thing that kind of got me into this idea, which was that if you have a VS that's not a clone, so it has its form changing ability, if there was like something beneficial where you now continue your chain, you end on Safi. You crack Safi targeting your VS, and then you crack your VS Safi targeting something else, and if there was a way to pop it immediately, and then it would both bring back the VS, which would then be probably Safi again, depending on what your board is like, but still like that was an interesting thought for me. There's also some interesting cases where like Brennard can be used in such a way where you have multiple VSs out, you're continuing your chain, then you get a Brennard, and if somehow you got to legend rule, or if all of your things, now they would die. Brenner would trigger from all of them, and now you would bring back multiple Volrath's shapeshifters, which would now be the thing that was on top. But this is still like, those require additional things, I'm pretty sure, so. And I haven't looked too much into them yet. Tournament results. Not that many tournaments, but we did have one very, very good performance, which was from Dashiell Schulman, third place out of 58. So a very nice sized tournament, and took it to the finals. Kefka won this, I believe, but there were moments where, like, Dashiell was threatening wins on multiple turns, I believe, so. And then there was like this weird territory where they need to deal with something, like another person's win, and then Kefka managed to just win it. But now to the biggest thing of this video, I guess, the wonderful, wonderful tier list for Aang Chain Continuers. My video seems to be a little jittery, but I don't know. Maybe it will work. We'll see. Hopefully the audio is fine. I guess the... Oh yeah, I should mention Safi and Melira are not here, even though they are like usable with Gigantoplasm. I think they're a little too conditional, like if you like, and in terms of priority, they don't really matter that much. If you have a Gigantoplasm out and you find Melira or Safi, usually you just, like, you know, get one additional trigger and it's not that important. So building the heuristic for that isn't like that important. But I guess we'll start with the first ones. I'll try to like kind of weigh them in a way where it's not like there's only one single D and one S, but rather than it's a little spread, but still try to maintain the categories so that the S is like you always want to see those, and then A, B, C, and so forth. Ennis is a 2-drop. It's a legend which can be relevant. I would put it, due to its slow blink nature, maybe in C, at least for now. It's nice to top deck it because it's easier to cast. It's also, well, Volrath's shapeshifter shenanigans are basically the ways to do that doubled with this printing, but I still think the VS stuff is, it's more like VS BS, where it's not that important, honestly. Regular clone, this one has flash, so it goes over that. Shield counter, I don't care. 2-drop is good. Sakashima student is whatever. Restoration Angel is maybe even S. Legendary clones, I think towards A. Normal. 2-drop Image versus the others is interesting because sometimes Image can be good because of the target thing, but overall I think because of Felidar Guardian stuff, I'd rather have a universal clone that I can like reset. So I think Flesh Duplicate is better than that. Wall goes here. Slow blink. Renegade Rallier is very good. For this and Extraction Specialist, I think I want to do it so that it's considered to be online. Visage Bandit is whatever. Soul Herder is really good. I probably need to start dropping these 2 words like that, I guess. I can then, I guess, split those. Fleshcrafter is better than those. VS is, I think it's better, but not that good. Juari is worse than Phantasmal Image in my opinion, because it forces you to take an Aang, whereas Fimage can like do other stuff. And Fimage, Safi, weird scenarios can get like intense. Gigantoplasm, the one thing we want. Just a regular clone. Charming Prince, I think, is better than Ennis, but not by a whole lot. Basically, the slow blinks are worse overall because they just like delay and turn off like some other stuff. Loyal Retainers as a continuer, if it's online, it brings your legend out, and bringing legends out is decent, but I'll see if I have any other thoughts with it. Flicker Wisp is better than Girapur, but both are better than Stag. Redemption Choir is really, really good, assuming it's online. It's one of the rare cards that also manages to bring like 2 chains, first on its ETB and then on the following turn by attacking. Chameleon. Extraction Specialist goes there. Salvation Swan is like the best one. Icewind Stalwart is better than Restoration Angel. Felidar Guardian is better than those. This is mainly because of its power. It lines better with Redemption Choir. And Felidar Guardian can reset itself. Like, if you have a clone, they can blink each other back and forth. It's not type restricted. Spark Double goes there. Thassa is towards there. Vizier has additional text, and Stunt Double has flash. I guess this is our working condition. Like, this is something. So if I have a Redemption Choir online and I were to see all of this in the same trigger, usually I think still Salvation Swan, if it's a continuer, it's the most reliable one to convert to a win. Gigantoplasm is the second best one because those are like the bottleneck cards. If Redemption Choir is online, it's like the third best from here. Now my interesting point here is, how far do I prioritize Soul Herder and Thassa? Usually I pick those if I see them, but now if I'm thinking out loud and I'm like, let's say I see, obviously, disclaimer here, this is just a general thing, like if you've gained information, then these should fluctuate. You should pivot towards one thing or the other. But for example, if on the first trigger you see a Felidar Guardian, and now second trigger I would be given Salvation Swan, Gigantoplasm, and I guess the Soul Herder and Thassa, I would still take the Salvation Swan. Now if it was GP and the others, I would take GP. If it was Icewind Stalwart and Soul Herder or Thassa, I would take those over those, I'm pretty sure. But if I had just a single trigger, like I want to see how far I value these. The on-ground ones are better than the in-air one, which is Restoration Angel. This is mainly because of Salvation Swan and Luminous Broodmoth. Like, flying creatures, the ones that care about those is Jackdaw Savior and Brennard. But Brennard also applies to on-ground creatures if you have a Gigantoplasm. So basically, in terms of card quantities, Salvation Swan and Luminous Broodmoth is more cards than just the Jackdaw Savior. I think it goes like that. But these are still like significantly better. 2 drops. This is interesting. No, but yeah, I would still take those. Like, I think the case here is that these can lead even like maybe Restoration Angel underneath those, but like the on-ground creatures are just so good. So I think this looks pretty much correct. Yeah. And then Rallier versus Specialist, the only consideration here is that if you have Salvation Swan and you exile Renegade Rallier and then it comes back like on your opponent's turn, you maybe don't have anything that has left the field, so then it might not be online. But still, generally, like Rallier is more flexible. There's more cards it can do and bring back, and there's like I guess better things it can do, like bring out the birthing ritual, and that it can also bring back LED. And there's play patterns where that LED mana is crucial. Chameleon, sometimes Planar Guide, and things like that. But those are pretty much even. I think it's something like that. Then on to the legendary clones and the 2-drop clones. Those are in order, like in terms of the category. And Sakashima 1K is the worst one because it would require you generally to have like other way to get rid of it. Like if you get the Sakashima into a Soul Herder and now you do another chain, if you were to find like from the Soul Herder you'd find say Jackdaw. Now you need to have a way where you can get rid of that Sakashima. And I think Sakashima the Impostor is the best one out of these because one, it has its return to hand ability, and also the fact that it retains its status as a legend, which is not true for Chameleon. So for Luminous Broodmoth stuff, if you have a Sakashima the Impostor as a Felidar Guardian, and then you have a clone enter as Sakashima the Impostor Felidar Guardian, it will die, and now you can combo off. Chameleon doesn't do that. So I think that's good. And also for like Jackdaw purposes, if you have a chain which just goes like Sakashima into some clones, and you find the Gigantoplasm in there, and then right into Jackdaw Savior, you might not have the ability to start the chain, because if you have to sacrifice your Gigantoplasm but you don't have a creature in the grave yet, then it just falls apart. Interesting choice. Like 2 creatures care about, or rather 3 about those. But legendary clones like let you stick a creature. So I think it's like that. I'm not sure how much I would like separate these. Like I think for just building heuristics, it's just better to go so that you have like, you know, this kind of a mental category in terms of what should you look out for. Like Salvation Swan, Gigantoplasm are the clear top 2 things. Redemption Choir is right after because it's just a fantastic continuer. Arguably Felidar Guardian could be better because of its like infinite blink applications, but I think in the game states where Redemption Choir is online, it's still just so good because you can like continue your chain immediately. If you bring a 3-drop clone that is an Aang and it dies, then you know if you find a flicker creature, it still functions as so. It can also sometimes bring back food chain, which is like one of the better things to do, but it seems correct. Feldar's better than that, that's better than that. I guess Resto is better than that. Soul Herder is better than Thassa because of Naga Flesh Crafter, and also that it can gain infinite power. Like, it happens pretty easily, and even though it's easier to remove because it's a creature, I still think the removal point isn't like relevant, because if you go to your next turn, if you still get the trigger, your opponent just kills the thing that it's targeting, right? So it doesn't matter as much. And in case you're not familiar, the Flesh Crafter Renew with Soul Herder is what I mean. Like, if you have a chain where you get Flesh Crafter into your grave and you find Soul Herder during that chain, then next turn, if you have 3 mana, you can make all your creatures Soul Herders. When you go to your end step, they all trigger. Now you can trigger like each one separately, so that you first get your Aang back, and then, for example, a clone or whatever you had will then flicker and it can enter as an Aang, and then you get like multiple chains out of one original chain without casting spells. Rallier and Extraction Specialist. Will I take those over Soul Herder and Thassa? If they're online, there's like there is no significant difference, I guess, compared to like the other on ground things. Arguably also it could be like this. If I see that one there, yeah, I think they are better than Restoration Angel. The rest of the thing which is good with it is that later on, if you find a way to go for like a Preston thing, you could then like reset your clones, which is something that the Rallier and Specialist can't really do. But I'm thinking if, because these set up towards both Swan and GP, if it's exactly GP, then I think it goes like that. But overall, Rallier, yeah, I think Rallier overall is better, because there are chains where you might find like Flesh Crafter, Renegade Rallier, and then finally end on LED. Maybe you can make something happen with that. Maybe there's stuff like a Vizier. I don't know. If you have a clone, I guess you could still continue the chain regardless. Well, let's not get too stuck on anything. Instant Flicker versus Soul Herder. I think because the chains are so reliable, like overall, giving less time for your opponents to react in terms of like, I guess, the additional turn, maybe I prefer that one. Let's go with this. I think that seems pretty fine. Now we get to the iffy part. So which ones are the best overall? Well, Vizier is a notable upside from your chains, I think. Clever Impersonator is out there, because if there was like a food chain out, Phyrexian Altar out, something, this card could put in heavy lifting for you, because it has like the most, I guess, the most applications where you could maybe get something beneficial with it. I guess Bolas's Citadel is something, but you know, these are just things and thoughts that are like considered worthy. This is also, I'm not going to focus too much on what is the most removal proof things. Like, sure, if your opponent has an endurance, then these cards become much weaker overall, that like recur something or care about your grave, uh, loyal retainers, this kind of stuff. Also, deflecting SWAT is something that hinders Felidar Guardian, but it doesn't really hinder the Icewind Stalwart as much. Same principle as like Flicker Wisp gets hit by deflecting SWAT more, but just to give an idea. From a chain viewpoint, like sometimes the flash is relevant, but this is usually only in scenarios where you don't get these from your chain, but rather your opponent has a rule of law, you have a food chain out, you cast one Aang. Now, if you have one of these in your hand, obviously it's much better than these other things, but you get the idea, I guess. Now, to consider whether the 3-drops or 4-drops are better, I think I'd want those over that one. I think I would want Glasspool Mimic and Mirror Image over. I think they are both only from your creatures. I'll double check. Yeah, creature you control, any creature you control. Shapeshifter Rogue doesn't really matter. I guess the Glasspool Mimic can flip, which is not good. We want it on the front side, so I think that's better. Usually they end up in the grave anyway, and the reason why I'm prioritizing this 3-drop nature is that you can both bring it back with Redemption Choir. Imagine a scenario where you hit this, you have Coven online, but now you don't have a target. That would be sad, so setting up your grave towards that is okay. And the other application is if you have a chain which goes like Restoration Angel, well, originally a clone, and now you have a 3-drop clone or a 4-drop clone, getting the 3-drop clone into your grave in like in that regard, where if you hit Gigantoplasm, your Restoration Angel is a 4-drop, so it can only find a 3 or 2-drop clone from your grave. Whereas like if you have legendary Aang, then you have like more options to do so. So I think the 3-drops go over that. Now, whether I value Vizier and Fleshcrafter higher, I think I do because of the modality. Like Vizier and Naga both benefit from you hitting a mana engine. If you have like supportive parents, which you end the chain on, then Vizier can get you into a scenario where you just win because, you know, if you get supportive parents, then you do this, you find 2 flicker creatures, you can generate the infinite mana win from there. Fleshcrafter is a little similar, and if you end on Diamond Lion or like Renegade Rallier, but you don't have access to, you know, an outright chain continuer in your grave, maybe bringing back the LED can next turn let you Vizier. So I think finding those and having that option in the grave is probably better than the 3-drop nature. And usually these scenarios where these are the things that you'd care about is that you would hit a specific sequence where Gigantoplasm comes after one of your clones, and you would have a Restoration Angel instead of a legendary creature, and, you know, that kind of thing. Clever Impersonator because it copies everything. Shield counters artifacts. Maybe that modality, this is only ones that you control, I'm pretty sure. Where's my guy? Yeah, not that good. Clone is any creature, shield counter any creature, stuntable flash any creature, doesn't really matter. Uncounterable, this is irrelevant, honestly. Visage Bandit, I think it was very similar. yeah, creature you control, so much weaker in that sense. Mirror Hall Mimic has some additional text, but it's so delayed. Like, I think it's in your upkeep you make a thing. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I don't like that I don't like that much. But I think it's better than artifacts. I think it's better than anything out. Yeah, I think it's similar to this, but I think it goes something like that. Things you control, any, any, you, loyal retainers. It's timing restricted, but if it's online from your chain, that means that you have like a legend, I guess, in your grave. And if you have a legend in your grave, that usually means that you would have access to these. So I think it's honestly quite high in that regard. Definitely not. Interesting. Now I start thinking about the 2-drops. Like, if you have a decision between a loyal retainers bringing back a Sakashima versus a 2-drop, yeah, I'd want the legend. So I think it's like that. This is also, I will mention, getting loyal retainers. It's like, it's not that common for it to be beneficial because it requires you to have found both a legend onto the field, have it die, and then like find loyal retainers while still in your first main phase. But assuming it's online, it lets you do that. Now, is there a difference if you have loyal retainers or an outright clone? I guess this would be like an interaction kind of a thing. But if you have loyal retainers and you now flip into Volrath's shapeshifter, is there something there? You would crack that. No, I think there's not really that much of a difference because if you crack the retainers and you find VS after, you just get VS out and you need to crack it and it's the top card. And then that happens. Yeah, it doesn't work in that sense. Because you'd have to set up the VS before. I guess VS needs to be a little higher. Like, if it's a continuer in a vacuum, it's not better than the 2-drops. But if you get it with the upside of like those, I think this is something that needs to be looked at with like big scrutiny, because it's if it has its highs and it has its lows. Like, obviously this requires it to be online, but for the major part it's online by having some clone in your grave, pretty much. Like, the majority of Archchain containers are just regular clones, so usually VS is just another clone, but it has additional text. but it's not better than the 2-drops, that's for sure. It's not better than legendary clones, so this looks pretty correct. But the loyal retainers, if it's a continuer, it means that it's some legend there. Now, if the legend would happen to be Charming Prince, I guess, then, I mean, Ennis, I would definitely want to have a normal legendary clone over that. Now, so I think this is the main thing. If it's one of those guys, then it's better. If it's precisely like Ennis, then I think I don't like it as much. Now, if the discussion was between Ennis and these 2-drop clones, then I would definitely put it like this. But if it's like a legendary thing, this one is a little interesting, but usually Ennis would be in the grave only if you've discarded it to an LED. So I'll put it here, but do know that this depends on what like the retainers can do. If it can bring back one of these guys, sure, then it's good. But if it's one of these, then and VS has additional text. If this one can bring something, yeah, that one is not as good. Most of the time this is a normal clone, but it has some additional upside. Now whether it's better than Fleshcrafter probably is. If I had both of these out, I think it would still be Vizier over that. Mirror Hall Mimic is delayed. I think I like the Fleshcrafter overall more. Like, it has more good applications, like Redemption Choir and Soul Herder are the main ones. Then 3-drops seems good for me, good to me. And then 4-drop clones, some with added things. And I think out of those ones, these can copy things more broadly. Connive versus shield counter. I want to see how it's worded. Like if you have an opponent has a red blast, for example. So it stays. I think that goes above that one. This is mainly because if you have like a Soul Herder, well, actually it can't be Soul Herder because of the Pyroblast hitting it. Let's say you have a Thassa. If you have multiple Aangs out, and you would now target your undercover operative, which is an Aang, I guess, your opponents can't destroy it. It would still flicker, and you would make a trigger. So I like that more. Just normal clone, but anything normal is worse than that one. These are irrelevant. I think it's a 0/0 anyway. Any creature. I guess if it's bounced to your hand, it's better. Stunt double. Flash is better than that. Those are universal. Sakashima student is better because if you bounce it. Wall is interesting. I will mention this though. Like there are scenarios where this is beneficial. You can do some politicking. If your opponent has a CSA and they have like a Fable Row Elder that's tapped, then sometimes you could go like, hey, I can cause that Fable Row to stay tapped, but I need you guys to do blah blah blah. Or I can try to look for something that lets us get rid of the CSA activation. But overall, I still think this is like those political nuances where it's like, eh, not really, not really that important, I guess. Flash if it gets bounced. Creatures you control, creatures your opponents control. If there's like a cyclonic rift, if there's a chain of vapor. Like I'm thinking another scenario where you have multiple Aangs and then you target this one with your flicker spell and you play around the bounce spell. Because end step they bounce. I guess it's a bit like that. Bouncing this, it's still slow. Student is better than that one. Student is better than that one. Wall is amongst the worst, I think. Visage Bandit just has the additional, yeah, Shapeshifter Rogue. But it's a 2/2. So I guess it's sticking around is sometimes relevant. Like if you have a planar guide and you have Visage Bandit come back in, it doesn't die. And then you have something else entering, you could have them enter as this one, I think. Yeah, doesn't really matter that much, but you get the idea. Bottom row, Charming Prince. Like the interesting part, I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but Charming Prince can bounce things that your opponents control because it's another target creature you own. So if by some miracle your opponent steals your Aang, like with Gilded Drake, you can Charming Prince it and get it back to yourself. But this really, really rarely happens during a chain. So I wouldn't care about that too much. Target creature you own under your control. Under its owner's control. There's very rare moments in which these are relevant, but Charming Prince, I guess it has like the power. Like Aang is like 4 and 2, and Ennis becomes a 2. I'm thinking which one would I prefer to have. I think overall the power one is harder to find. Let's see. Those are ones that doesn't matter. 3 ones. Like I guess there's more 2s, but because if it's a chain continuer, it goes like that. The thing about Charming Prince, though, is that if you find a Salvation Swan and then you exile Ennis, you would need a clone, and then Ennis would die. I think those scenarios are so horrible that it's like, I don't know, a little weird. I think it's a very minimal thing overall. This one, we can order the triggers. Let's say we... No, yeah, Ennis is better. Ennis is better because while you can clone Charming Prince, that's still such a slow thing. Like you would almost always just clone Aang, right? But the thing with Ennis is that if you go to your end step and now you start a new chain by bringing the thing back, order the Ennis triggers so that the +1 counter is underneath the Ennis return. Now you start a new chain, and if that chain includes, you know, Aang into Spark Double, now you would have Redemption Choir online, whereas with Ennis, that would not be the case. So I think... Yeah, I think it's that way. Small note to myself now that I thought about it out loud. Flicker Wisp as a chain continuer is better than Girapur, mainly because Flicker Wisp can hit more things. Sometimes you can exile your opponent's thing. Guardian, yeah, I guess I should forego the requirements of the mana overall. Like maybe if it gets bounced, but Guardian of Girapur is a flyer. Stag is on the ground. These ones are a little iffy overall. Would I rather have a Flicker Wisp or a Stag? I guess Stag. This one is like, these aren't that relevant overall. In terms of what cards you should run in your deck, I think Flicker Wisp and Guardian of Girapur are probably better than Stag. Just one exile effect like this is good for those win conditions where you can't really win outright, but like if we're looking at chains and we wanted to simulate things where you see all of these 5 ones outright, which one would you pick? And so on and so forth. All right, and let's look at these like sections. Swan is better than Gigantoplasm because it's more reliable to win. Redemption Choir is top notch if it's a continuer. Tedar, Icewind is correct. These two can bring varying things back. If you bring a slow blink, then it's a little iffy. This being 2 power is better than this being 3. At least I'm pretty sure Rallier... No, Rallier is 3 as well. Somehow, I think it's just mana cost 2 that, like, gives me the feel. Now, is Restoration Angel better than these? I guess Restoration Angel lets you set up your Gigantoplasm boards much better. If you have Restoration Angel and you have some clones, and now if you find, I guess, Icewind Stalwart, you can reset them back and forth. Now, interesting overall. I guess it's, well, cloning that doesn't, like, now the thought process I'm going in is if Aang flips these, if we get the Soul Herder, then we can still blink that. If you get the chain and we have these, and Aang would flip with us fizzling, yeah, Restoration Angel is better. like in those scenarios where you need to cast something else, maybe you need to embalm a vizier or something. If your Aang is flipped, you want to have a way to flicker it like on its onto itself. Now whether Rallier or this, I think I value those really high. Let's look at my data, I guess. Small data view. Oh, don't tell me that my window has been messed up. No, I closed my preview slower. Oh no. Uh, do I need to? I guess I need to just put an image in the video and show you what I've done. Oh, Christ. Well, I hope I just moved it right now. Well, that was a wild ride, if that's happened. Well, you can listen to this as a podcast, I guess. But I want to see the Soul Herder percentages. Conversion with Soul Herder is really good. Conversion with Thassa is very similar. So that's like 90%. That's close to that. And conversion with no, without the bones. Let's see if I have any. Well, I guess I can just look at the normal conversion. So they do increase the overall conversion. But this is what we're working with currently. Hopefully you hadn't missed anything, but still unfortunate if that happened, but we'll see. But yeah. If those are online, would I rather see that or Soul Herder? If I see Felidar Guardian and Soul Herder, which one would I want? If I see an Icewind Stalwart, I guess it depends a bit on the hand as well. Like if you have something to play, then these instant effects are better because you can then find like supportive parents and stuff like that. I think it's something like this. The common thing for like these are combo pieces. Choir lets you probably do really good stuff like overall because it provides multiple chains. These three let you flicker Aang instantly, and also if you get an Aang stuck, then you can flicker it over. Same principle for Soul Herder and Thassa. Now more on-ground continuers, which are better than legendary clones in my opinion. Because if you keep cloning these, you can bring the thing back. Rallier has more upside compared to Specialist, even though it has slight anti-synergy with Salvation Swan. And then these clones. If Chameleon enters as an Aang, it's still legendary. If it enters as a Felidar Guardian, its name is Chameleon, but it's not legendary. But you get the second Aang. Sakashima is better than that. Spark Double has the added text of working with Redemption Choir, but Chameleon lets you use loyal retainers more reliably, so I would take that over that. And Sakashima of 1,000 Faces has the like anti-synergistic text, but it's still, in my opinion, better because you can grow your board, and then later on, if you find Gigantoplasm or Salvation Swan, then you can do your shenanigans. Then the 2-drop clones, mainly because they turn the on-ground recursion creatures online. Flesh duplicate is better than those two. Phantasmal image is second best because it's universal. Jiwari is the worst. Loyal retainers. It depends a bit on what the targets are, but if it's Ennis, then not that good. But if it's like either of these, it's significantly better. VS is usually just a regular clone, but sometimes it's more than that, and I think that's why I'd value it maybe a little higher. But if I have a strict choice between VS entering as a legendary clone, let's imagine like so for a bit, and retainers, I guess it's like that still. Visure is an instant effect. Naga can be an instant effect. Mirror Hole can do next turn if you go it on your turn. Then 3 drops with this being second because it can flip over, whereas this one can't, so you have a front face Aang. These can copy other types of permanents from your other opponents as well. Shield counter, maybe it's like that. Connive, do I value that? Or yeah, I think I value the connive a little higher because sometimes I guess the power can be relevant. You go to combat, you attack, end step chain, now you have redemption choir. Sure. Flash more universal, like Cyclonic Rift, then you can do something with it. This one you really can't. Sakashima Student is just technically a regular clone, but if it gets bounced to hand, then you can maybe do something. This one is better if it gets returned than that one. Visage Bandit is not a universal clone. Well, so I think it goes like that. And then the last row, power is better than that. These have the same power, but this is on ground, which is better than these. I guess we've done it. Now the question is, do I want to put these like so, that it's significantly like lower priority? Like I'm just trying to balance these a little bit. I think this is, those are top tier. I always take those if I see. The second row is like, I'm not as excited, but I'm still excited. These ones, I will have to say, like these ones I'm a little iffy about. Just in the term, like when thinking about these can get you stuck. These kind of don't do that. If you end on those, then you, I guess, Aang fizzles. But then these ones can also flicker them up. If you have other things on the board, you can probably flicker them. But if you go Renegade Rallier and you have some clones, then you get Salvation Swan. Salvation Swan will let you probably win outright. Yeah, and Extraction Specialist is the same. But Rallier can find you Birthing Ritual and LED, and then you can get a legendary clone with Chameleon. Yeah, I think it's like that. Do I want to put Loyal Retainers and VS in B? VS is normally just a clone. But I guess sometimes you could flicker it. you could discard something to it. Does that make sense? Oops. Yeah, I think it's something like this. Let's go with that. Now, I will save this image, I guess. I'll post it in the Discord. Hopefully, I guess there's the vision on the YouTube video, but if not, I guess what you can do is just open the chain continuous thing and just look at this, maybe? Or maybe I'll edit the video a bit. I don't know. Well, regardless, thank you for watching. This was an unfortunate thing to notice. I saved some of my frame, like my data, because it was laggy, so I wanted to hide the preview and then I maybe messed it up a bit, but I don't know. I will check out the results in just a few minutes, so let's see what happens. Maybe I will re-upload this with like the image attached, or maybe I will not, but thanks for watching.